YouTube users, this is another update from Eisenberg. This one's mainly based on usage of drugs, regardless whether it be methamphetamine, heroin, fucking acid, ecstasy, Molly, straight, taking tabs, taking liquid forms of LSD. Marijuana is not really part of my subject because there's no problems with it. You either you use it in moderation, or you use it all day every day, and you're a stoner. People choose what they want to do. But when you start getting into methamphetamine, that'll be my first case. You eventually become into a tweaker. You might use it, every now and then. That's great. Good for you. You learn some sort of control. Not good for you for the fact that you're using drugs to begin with, but at least you're not sitting there pounding away all day, every day at it. A bowl here every 30 fucking minutes or every hour. That's not moderation. That's overdoing it. That's using it. That's what I like to call addiction. I myself was addicted to methamphetamine for a while. The only way I got out of it was I moved out of my hometown and I got away from, not my friends, because I was the one supplying it for the longest time, but I got away from my suppliers, and I couldn't just go pick it up right down the road like I used to. And I'm not gonna lie, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it. And it's been maybe it's been months, almost a year. I don't know the exact timing, but shit, like, I never thought I had a problem. Like, up to the day that I got out of that town, I didn't think I had that much of a problem. And when I finally got clean and I started thinking right, I started realizing, what the hell was I fucking doing? I was sitting there sticking needles in my fucking arm, shooting up, and smoking all day, every day, spinning that globe. And I didn't think two shits about it. Now I realize, hey, I fucking I used to be skinny. I weighed 184 pounds, and for somebody who used to be my size, that is very fucking small. I used to weigh 320. The problem was I lost all my muscle mass, not just fat. I always looked at it as a positive thing. I was all smoking. I was like, dude, I'm losing all this weight. I'm not a fat ass no more. I was like, hooray, right? But I never looked at the negatives. I was always looking at the what I thought were pros, and I was never paying attention to the cons. And I became a lowlife. I had a daughter. I lost custody of her for a while, not legally, but the mother of my daughter knew what I was doing, and she had the decency to keep her away from me. And even I had the decency to tell her that there was drug usage going on in my house, and I didn't think it was safe for our daughter to be there. And that doesn't make me a good person, but at least I took into the fact that my daughter didn't need to be around those kinds of substances. And I may have lied about who was using them, but it was obvious I was lying. And I stopped caring so much. I didn't have my daughter over all the time anymore. And what kind of mentality, what kind of father chooses drugs over his daughter? Obviously I am, or I was, and that's not good. But moderation. If you do use, I'm not gonna say you're a bad person, but don't become a tweaker. It's fucking hard. But if you're gonna sit there and you're gonna use every couple of fucking weeks or every couple of months, that's, honestly, I don't have anything bad to say about that. You've learned moderation. You've learned control. You're not overdoing it. You're using it as a substance for, let's say, the occasional drinker. I don't know. You're not using it to get fucked up all the time. You're using it just to enjoy a specific time frame that you have, and that you're gonna start and when you're gonna stop. Now, I want to use it today, and oh shit, I'm out of my sec. Got to go pick up another. That's the wrong mentality to have. That's not a good thing. Same with heroin. We'll jump the subject real quick. I myself am not a user, ever was, but I have been around people who did. The only thing I was ever into was Oxycontin and Norcos and Vicodins. I never even touched Oxycontin because I knew better. As far as heroin goes, as far as black tar, brown, I never touched this stuff myself, but I had been around people shooting it and smoking it, and never snorting it. But it's another thing. If you want to do what you want to do, I'm not going to tell you no. I am in no position to be that person to say, stop fucking around. My whole point is moderation. You need to learn moderation. Like I said, when your sack runs out, you don't need to be like, fuck, I'm out, I need to go run and pick up some more. Or when your sack's about to run out, that's your mentality, then no, I'm going to tell you, you got a fucking problem. If you're sitting there using every couple of months, good for you. Like I said, I don't condone anything because I'm not allowed to, not on here, I don't believe, but moderation. As long as you have some idea of what you should and should not be doing, or how far you should and should not be going, then that's more power to you. At least you have the mentality to realize you shouldn't be fucking around with this stuff 24/7. God knows what it can do to you. Acid, same thing. If you want to fucking trip, you want to roll for a while, that I actually have no problem with. And regardless of what I can and cannot condone, I am not going to say anything negative about acid, except for the fact that you can overdo it and you can perma-burn yourself. You can get stuck in a state where you are always tripping and you can never come out. It is possible. Not likely, but it is possible. I myself have only used it, I think, once, and that was a tab. And I didn't get into it that much. My biggest thing is I enjoyed ecstasy for a while. I loved ecstasy. Except the thing is I never popped them. Always straight up the fucking nose. Railing the shit out of those motherfuckers. That was my biggest thing. I loved round pills. But another thing about rails, you snort anything. Coke, Crystal, fucking Brown, X, Vicos, Norcos. Be careful. You will burn out your senses, I had a friend, no names, but they had a ball that had formed up into it was like an infection, and it created a little crevice, and then a ball formed up in there, and they had to have surgery to have this little thing removed. And it was obvious to the doctors that they were removing a ball of Coke, Crystal, and X. And it's just like, how far are you gonna let yourself go to get to that point where you have to have that even done? And it's just like, be careful on railing. It's fun as fuck, but you need to know when enough is enough and when you should and shouldn't be doing it. There's going to be obvious people out there that say you should not be railing anything. You should not be snorting anything. You should not be doing drugs. Good for you. Straight up. You're not using drugs. More power to you. That you got a clean mind, and that's not something a lot of people have. You're able to process situations better. Reaction to everything is better. The way you think usually is better, unless you're an asshole and you got a horrible mentality to begin with. But clean is obviously, you're usually going to have a better mindset. Psychedelics, they open you up into another world. I'm not going to put that down. I'm not a heavy user in psychedelics myself. I've never delved into the world of experiencing things that I want to. Like DMT, I've never used it, but that's actually something I do because the stories I've heard and what it's secreted from, it's actually a part of the body that you can synthesize or harvest from living matter, such as plant matter and whatnot. That's something I would delve into, but that's a whole nother story. I can't talk about something I don't know and I've never experienced. Ecstasy is fun, for the pure fact that, okay, I don't know if everybody knows this, regardless of what you hear about meth bombs, heroin bombs, all ecstasy is cut or infused with some sort of methamphetamine. No matter what you get, no matter what they tell you, unless you're getting straight from the supplier who's making them, and even then, they could be full of shit. All of it is cut with methamphetamine. Why? Because that's part of the upper. That's what gets you smacking. That's what gets you going. So if you're an ecstasy user but you're against methamphetamine, realize what you are dwelling in, and that could actually lead you into something else. In all honesty, back to methamphetamine, my very first use, I was always against it. I smoked weed for 5 years straight, or 4.5 before I ever came into meth, and I was always against it. But how I came into it, I went to a payphone because my car broke down, and I called my daughter's mother. Like I said, I won't name her name. She's clean. She doesn't use drugs, except for maybe very, very seldomly marijuana and pain pills. Not overdoing it, though. She has a bad back. But I called her on a payphone, and as I'm talking to her, I look down, and I see this little baggie, and I'm just like, I say her name, and I'm just like, I think I just found a bag of crystal meth. I was like, the only reason I knew is because it looked like little tiny shards of glass, tiny ass little shards of glass. Nothing else is going to look like that. Even if you've never seen it before, people tell you crystal, and you see a little bag that looks like crystals, and what you know is a tiny little drug bag because you've been in the drug world regardless. I was just like, I think I found some crystal meth. And I was so like, I pinned it to my shirt with a safety pin. And she came and she helped me out with her and her boyfriend, because we weren't together at the time. They came in their truck and they helped me out. And I'm just sitting there. I was like, dude, look at this. And she had no idea what to say about it. Obviously I wasn't just, because she knew I wasn't like this drug addict. She knew I smoked marijuana, but she knew I didn't delve into this world. And she's just like, well, I don't know what the hell to say about that, except for how strange, because, I broke down right by my house. I just need to get my car home. This gas station I've lived by the last 21 years of my life. I've never found anything like this before. So I was just like flabbergasted. Didn't know what to say. Like I said, pinned it to my shirt, wore it all the way home. And at this time, I'm living at my house by myself. My parents moved here to Atascadero. And I'm not by myself. I was living with my friend and his girlfriend. And I always had friends over, And we had marijuana harvest going on there too. Like I said, heavy into the marijuana use. I loved it. Still do. I'm clean, but that's for other reasons. But I ended up smoking it, and I was going to smoke it out of a light bulb just because I'd always making light bulb vaporizers for marijuana when I was, in the earlier days. Not anymore. I had like fucking $300 bongs and steamrollers, pure glass, gas mask with glass tubing. I enjoyed it. So I didn't just make makeshift shit anymore. I went straight high class. But I was going to make a meth pipe out of a light bulb. And lo and behold, my friend tells me, don't be smoking out of a light bulb. He's like, are you, will you share it with me if I had a globe? And I was just like, if you had a globe, yeah. But I was like, you have a globe? Do you? And he's just like, will you smoke it with me? I said, well, sure. I can't fucking say no. Yeah. And, just to let everybody know ahead of time, it was probably a 10 sack. That's my best guess now. I didn't weigh it at the time. I don't think he could have. At most, it was probably not even a 0.1. It's probably 0.05, 0.07. But, so we smoked it, me, my friend. Now, I will name last names here just because, or nicknames actually, just because, they're close friends of mine. They used to be, not so much anymore, but, this video is not going to kill them. My buddy, my homeboy, Nasty Skills, and Jack Dingus, we all smoked. We each got 3 hits each. I still remember because, the first time, it's so fucking insane. It's hard to explain. But, we were high as balls. And, obviously I had people help me spin it because I had no idea how it worked at first. But, yeah, he busted out a globe and we smoked it and we all got high as balls. And that day, I ended up hitting his dad. I went straight. I didn't use moderation at first. I went straight from not ever touching it to using it every fucking day, all day long. I became a driver for my homeboy's dad, and he wasn't close to his dad, but because we started dwelling in meth, and we knew his dad was deep in the drug world, we ended up, hitting him up, letting him know what was up. We actually lied at first. We said we needed it for a friend. But, that lie came out pretty quick. And I started being a driver, and I would get free shards for every, delivery, every help, every mission I busted out. I would get shards, big old fucking little shards, 0.3s, 0.4 sometimes. Sometimes half a gram, sometimes a gram. And, I dwelled real heavy into it, too heavily. And the whole thing lasted, we don't actually know, because spun out for so goddamn long, anywhere between 4 and 8 months. We lost track of time. I'm pretty sure it was only about 4 or 5 though, but nobody wants to agree with me because the only reason I say that is because we had a harvest, and between the very starts, getting them ready, and then the actual time change where they start flowering and everything, not just the beginning. We planted them a little earlier, that way they had time to grow and not sex right away. So I'm guessing 6 months tops, but what it was the craziest 6 months of my entire life. Like I said, I lost a lot of weight. I've gained a chunk of it back now. I weigh 220, 225, but lost a lot of weight. And in the end, I lost all my friends, and I lost part of my crop that was stolen from me. Again, because I was dwelling in a world that I didn't fully understand, or not understand, but pay attention to the fact that people change when you're on this shit. People act different. People are going to be scandalous, even if they're close friends of fucking years and years. Shit happens. But that's how I dwelled into the methamphetamine world. Weed, I grew up hating it just for the fact that I knew my dad smoked it, and he was this biggest asshole, and I always thought it was the reason for it. Turns out he dwelled around with coke and meth for a bit too. That explains a lot nowadays. But so I didn't really get heavy into smoking marijuana until I was about 17, you know, and I was already an adultish age by then. But like I said, 5 years from that 17 to pretty much 22, I delved into marijuana hardcore. And about year 3 into the marijuana, I started dwelling into ecstasy hardcore. And about the 4th year, I started enjoying cocaine. And like I said, towards the end of the 4th, 5th, and beginning of 5th year, that's when I started tweaking hardcore. Acid, like I said, I only used it once, and it was at a Halloween party. And I'm not sure exactly what it did, because that night I did coke, I did X, I did that one tab of the acid, and I smoked shit, crystal, and I fucking smoked, weed galore, and I had edibles. So I was gone off into another world. But as far as tripping on LSD or acid, I don't think I was. Like I mentioned in a previous video, spice, that's the most intense psychedelic I've ever touched. It made me experience things I've never felt. It made me think things I've never thought. It made me feel things I've never felt or understood what they are. And it made me trip harder than I've ever tripped before. I had an outer body experience. I had a near-death experience, a real one. When you're having a near-death experience and you're having a trip at the same time, it's a fucking eye-opener. Crazy shit happens. It's intense. But, ecstasy, this subject now, it's fun, but it'll eat holes into your brain if you overdo it. It's a quick, simple subject. Enjoy it while you can. Rave scenes, whatever. But you kind of, ecstasy, you kind of have to grow out of it. You really do. You can only do it for so long, and it's fun. Like I said, rave scene, you do it for a couple years, that's pretty bad. I probably only used it maybe 40 times myself, 40, 50 times altogether. And that's within the last 3 years. Like I said, I didn't start touching X until maybe 2-3 years in to smoking weed. But I know people who've done hundreds. I've known people who've done 15 in one night. And that's just overdoing it. That's retarded. Moderation. Enjoy your drugs. Enjoy what you do. But know when enough is enough and too much is too much. And know when you shouldn't be touching it. That's what gives you the upper hand, is when you know better. You're still acting like a stupid kid, not caring. What can I say about you? I start to lose respect. I lost respect for myself a lot. Like I said, methamphetamine, don't overdo it. If you do use it, please learn moderation. Please learn when you should and shouldn't. If you don't touch it, fucking great, good for you. Don't ever touch it. When you do, it is a hard thing to use correctly and in moderation. If you even think that exists, which a lot of people don't, which is completely understandable. A lot of people are against methamphetamine. Like I said, I was for the longest time. I found my free sack. I just don't throw shit away, so I smoked it and I dwelled into the world. I hated it for all those years, and I loved it just like that. Heroin, I haven't really used it. Like I said, I've been around people using it. I've only used opiates as far as pills. I've never smoked opium, so I can't say much about that. I really can't. I've only been around people who walk around with it. And even then, you don't have the mindset that they have. You don't understand what they understand. So I want to stay off that subject, actually. Same with the acid. What can I say? Spice. Don't ever touch spice. Don't smoke weed. Even smoke salvia, whatever. Don't touch spice. There's a difference. Salvia is the only time I smoked it was an extract of a certain extract, I think 20X, and it just comes, it looks like a little purple black leaf. It's all shredded up or whatever, really shredded up. And it for me, it lasted about 5 minutes. For some of my friends, it lasted about 15. One of my friends who was, deep in the head, it lasted about 40 minutes, and it was a bad trip, but nothing like spice. Spice is a fake marijuana looking substance. It's got a resin on it, little shredded up leaves. They even put stems in it. I don't know if it's part of what the ingredients is, or they just want to make it look as legit as possible. But it does things to you that I've never felt in my entire life before. Like I said, I've hallucinated. The things I've felt on it, unexplainable. I don't recommend it, but teenagers will be teenagers, young adults will be young adults, even adults will be adults. Some people just want to try it. Some people think it's an alternative to marijuana. It's a good, safe one because it's legal. It's not good and safe. Yeah, it's legal. What the fuck ever. Still, don't touch it. I'd rather you smoke marijuana. Again, this is your own choice, but this coming from an experienced user of everything else, and a very small time user of spice, but it opened up too many doors for me that I've never experienced before. And out of all the time I was tweaking and smoking weed and tripping on X, nothing matches up with it. Nothing at all. I'd rather, I'd rather use DMT to have that outer body experience, the correct one, without the possibility of killing myself. This is what that fucking spice did. It was a whole nother world, and I'm pretty goddamn sure it wasn't safe for me. Like I said, it almost gave me a heart attack. I ended up having to take three nitrous pills altogether. And that's just to keep your heart from blowing out, just because it's going fucking haywire, crazy. So marijuana, I'm not worried about moderation for that. Some people are. That's good, very good for you. But what I'm talking about is methamphetamine. If you don't use it, great for you. If you do use it, learn moderation, people. Moderation is the biggest part of it. Learn to control your usages. Same with ecstasy. If you want to use it, good for you. But if you're gonna overdo it and do it like that for years, then people are gonna lose respect for you, and you can become fucking burnt, really, really burnt. I've seen it myself, and it's just you kind of become retarded. Not literally retarded, but the way you think and act is a lot different. People can notice it. Hardcore. Acid, I can't say much about it. I haven't dwelled deep enough into it. Heroin, obviously, I already said this like 4 times. That's about it. I guess this concludes my video on whatever I knew about methamphetamine, heroin, acid. Oh, cocaine. Cocaine's fun. You just don't overdo it. You can kill yourself pretty quickly, depending on purity. But moderation with that as well. I won't go into it because it's kind of like it's just a weaker version of methamphetamine. But the highs, they're almost pretty much the same, except for one lasts several hours longer. That being the crystal. Coke is just for here and now, party kind of stuff. Whatever. Just don't overdo it. Moderation. But yeah, this concludes Eisenberg's report on what he knows about drugs. I don't know a lot. I'm sure the people who know a lot more, people watching this video, I'm sure they know a lot more about certain subjects of these. But be careful about what you delve into. I've had guns pulled on me. This going with the crystal meth. I've been threatened before, but I also made a lot of good friends. But I also lost almost all of my good friends, actually. So be careful in the world you guys delve into. Use your drugs moderately. Not moderately. Use them with moderation. Learn control, self-control, and when enough is enough, and when too much is too much. I hope you all have a good day. Peace out.